saw the baby
Oh,
thing.
did you?
Yeah, from over there. And I said, whoa, that's a cute one.
I got to give you that.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Live long and prosper.
All right. Yeah.
You got it. You got your
Hi guys, Will Terry here, and this video is going to be called How Much Money Did I Make at Salt Lake City FANX? And before I get going, I want to tell you to like and subscribe and make sure you subscribe right now and like. Can you tell I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I'm getting kind of sick of the begging for attention. My gosh, it's like we've come this far, right? This is like a little rant of the video. Sorry, we haven't gotten started yet, but my goodness, it's so weird that we've gotten the internet and we're like liberated from, the commercials on the radio, like come down now we're gonna have a whatever event, and now we've replaced it with like and subscribe. Gotta remember to don't forget to subscribe. Well, here's the thing, I don't want you to subscribe to my videos if you don't like them, because then they're gonna clog up your feed. See, I use YouTube. I subscribe to a lot of channels, and then I go through my subscription videos and I look and see what I want to watch. And I don't have time to even watch all of them, but I try to. I certainly don't want trash in there or things that I don't like. So how about this? Don't like or subscribe this video or this channel unless you like what you hear. I want to spread that. I wish more people would say that. Hey, if you liked what you saw, you might want to subscribe. Just saying. Okay, enough of that rant. Oh, and don't forget, I'm going to add this video to my playlist on how much money did I make at Comic-Con and all that. And I think there's 8 videos in there now. This is probably number 9. So I'm going to add that there. But my last video, if you're one of those people that is not sure about fan art, or maybe you hate fan art, you should definitely watch my last one. Last one on banning fan art. Okay, so let's get started. So Jake Parker asked me, because he didn't go to FANX in Salt Lake, and he asked me, how it went, and the only words I could use was it was magical. It was magical what happened to me there. So I'm going to go through everything, and this one's not 100% organized, so I might have to backtrack a little bit, but yeah, I had a great time, and it was such a huge difference from 6 months ago in September when I did Salt Lake Comic-Con. This was FANX, and so the emphasis, I think, is a little bit more on people coming out and getting their autographs and meeting. Like, I met a guy from Denver who came out to meet Kate Beckinsale and get a picture with her. It's expensive. I'm sure she's pretty, but he paid like $150. That's just not me. So anyway, I had I'll just start with the first thing. So I had told my class, and I'm going to go through my expenses. In fact, I'm going to do it at the end. So if you don't care about anything else, you can try to skip down there and see. But I went to my UVU class and talked about it. And the thing that struck me from what they were saying, and the consensus that I got was, well, Will, you did well because you're a big name illustrator, because you've got a name, and it would be hard for us to duplicate what you did. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And the reason is, and I like to put out this information just so you get an idea. I mean, my channel is about a lot of different things. It's I talk about, a lot of advice on marketing yourself for freelance, marketing yourself for, even working a job in the industry, and just all kinds of advice, business advice and things like that. This is just one, the aspect of selling your work at a convention is just another aspect or possibility of a business. I realize that some of you aren't going to be interested in that at all. And it was something I didn't think I was going to be interested in either. but it just kind of spilled into that. It just kind of became that. So anyway, they were asking me, you know, and I said, here's the thing, you know, I would estimate 1 to 3% of the people that bought from me actually knew me, as much as maybe 5%. But I think that would be, I really think that would be, you know, way too much. And 95 to 98% of the people that bought from me didn't know me from anyone else. Just strangers walking along and seeing my setup and coming over and falling in love with something and taking it home with them. And so I think that's really good news. I mean, that should be good news, because if you think that you're, you know, if you're saying, well, I'm not going to play the game and because I don't have a big name, you know, that's one less reason to not participate, I would say, right? Okay, another thing, and again, these are out of order, but I'm just going to compare some of the things that I did. Some of this, you know, so they say, there's somebody coined the phrase that, you know, a stupid person learns by mistake and a smart person learns by other people's mistakes, or something like that. I'm definitely the first. I'm a stupid person. Okay. I'm the guy who, you know, I have to hit my head with a hammer to find out if it hurts. I can't watch someone else do it and go, wow, that looks like it hurts. I don't want to do that. I tend to boldly go forward and try something and make a mistake. And sometimes I don't always do all my homework. And that's one of the reasons why I want to put this in video form. You know, before I started doing this video series on Comic-Cons, I checked out a lot of other people's videos. And the one thing that was lacking, it seemed like they would say, yeah, this is me at whatever, fill in the blank con, and here's my setup. And then I'd see pictures of their setup, and they're like, yeah, and you just, you know, don't spend too much money, you know, and try to ease into it and the end. And they're like 5-minute videos. I like to, as I'm drawing, and I know I've talked about this before, some of you are drawing. And by the way, I'll tell you when to look up when I put something interesting on the screen, because right now it's just me talking. And so keep drawing. But, you know, I would have wanted this video series so that I could just listen to somebody make all the mistakes and figure everything out. That's what a lot of this video is going to be about, is the mistakes that I made and the corrections and the things I discovered, because I discovered a lot. But one thing, and this is, you know, this is obvious stuff here, is I went to the first one in September without any sleeves, plastic sleeves over my artwork. So my artwork is out there just, you know, looking like a piece of paper, and I'm looking around and everyone else's looks like a product because it's tucked in a nice little sleeve. And I felt like an idiot. I mean, I really, you know, like when you do something, like if, you know, and you do something embarrassing and you get that red flush face. I had that when I realized that I didn't bring the sleeves and I didn't have any board backers or anything like that. And my stuff looked like crap. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't sell as much. In fact, I know that, you know, when you're dealing with numbers, when you have a good data set, and, you know, I had 3 days worth of data and 3 days worth of people just filing past my booth. You could definitely make a case that there's a certain number of people that chose not to buy because my setup just looks so bad. So I just let money walk on down the row. So anyway, I have nice sleeves, and I had those at CTN as well, and LTUE, but anyway, that's just something to make sure that you do. The next thing was the browsing racks, and here you can see them here, so you might want to look up. So I'm putting those up right now. My setup here with the browsing racks, and the thing that I like about that is what it does is people like to shop, and when they shop, they like to hold the thing that they might buy. And if you just have it, everything is, you know, plastered and attached, where they really can't hold it, I think you're one step away from a sale, because when someone can put something in their hands, they start to go, this is the thing I'm going to get. And then they continue to browse. And that's one thing that I really noticed is people will go through the rack and they'll pick out some and they'll hold them. And then sometimes they'll put one back and trade it for another if they find one they like better. But it's that process of shopping that I think if you don't have the browsing rack, it is expensive to get. Now, I went through a real hardship trying to get this browsing rack. In fact, I had to call a store. I looked online everywhere. The manufacturer that was making these went out of business, and there was another manufacturer that started making them again, but they weren't online, or at least they weren't online where I could find them. So I called this display store. They didn't have any. I told them this is what I'm looking for. They're like, well, that company went out of business because we used to have them. It's a long story, but a friend of mine got one from them. And so I'm like, is there any way you can order those from anybody? Because I can't find them anywhere. They're like, well, we'll look. So I bugged them and bugged them and bugged them. This is the thing. If you're going to be in business, I mean, business is hard. It's hard to be in business. You have to follow up. You have to make phone calls. This goes off into a tangent, but you need a to-do list. You need to keep a regular to-do list. There's a direct correlation between millionaires and to-do lists. The correlation is millionaires keep to-do lists, and people that aren't millionaires typically don't keep to-do lists. It doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire if you keep a to-do list, but it's one more thing, right? And so I would put on my to-do list, call and bug this display company, and make sure and see if they will order this rack. And finally, begrudgingly, they did, and they ordered 5 of them. They're called Modern Display. They're in Salt Lake. I don't know if they'll ship a rack to you. This one right here, Modern Display. You can look it up. I'm not going to link it, but you can look them up online. The reason that I went for that display rack, because like Dick Blick and all the other art stores, they have display racks. The problem with them is they're like they look like a manger, right? They open up, and then they have feet that go like that, and then the prints are up in here. And the reason I don't like that is because when you look at it from the side, which is where the traffic at a con, where people are walking along, are going to be, they're looking at the side of the rack. They're not looking at the art inside the rack. They can only see the side. They have to come up and look down into the rack to see the artwork. And if you could have sat where I was sitting for the weekend, I would say a good, and this is just guessing, but maybe a third to even half of my sales came from that browsing rack, because people would see what was in it from a distance. I would watch their eyes. I could tell when they would see my sign. I could tell when they would see the TV set that we had. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I could also tell when the first thing they saw was that browsing rack, and they would just walk right over to it. And they could see the artwork shining out. So it's if you're going to do this and you're dealing with the kind of numbers of people that are walking by, every little thing helps. Every little thing counts. Every little part of the space that you rented is storefront. And that storefront needs to be organized in a way that you can maximize. You don't want to clutter it, but you also don't want to waste it. And putting the crappy racks that all these art stores seem to think is the best rack, it's probably because it's cheap to make. It's the one that I got is more expensive. It was like $80 for that wire rack that you saw. And that's expensive, but I think it was worth it. I think it more than paid for itself in just one convention. So I think it's totally worth it. The guy next to me was asking, do you think it's worth it? I think I made way more than $80 on just the convention just from that rack itself. So anyway, browsing racks. I think I'm going to skip this next one and then come back to it. Maybe. No, I'm going to do it now. Okay, so the guys sitting next to me, and I know they're probably going to watch this video, they're awesome. And they also didn't do that well compared to me. And I don't think it's because, it's definitely not because of artistic talent or style or anything like that. I think it really comes down to concept and clarity of message. And I talked to one of them about it. And what I mean by that is the September Salt Lake Comic Con that I did, I had the worst sign you could possibly bring to a Comic Con. And here I am, I've been an artist, I've been a designer for, 23, 24 years. And I think what happens is, and one of the hardships is, when you're doing something for yourself, and you're the boss, you're the art director, you're the illustrator, you're the business person, you're wearing all the hats, you're doing everything, you're often too close to actually analyze what you're doing. And that's what happened to me. So I was thinking, not having ever sold at a con before, attended them, but not, it's different, and that's why in some of this, you really can't learn from someone else. You kind of have to go and experience it, because you'll learn things that I haven't learned yet if you do a convention, and you'll make discoveries that I'm yet to make and may never make. But the sign that I made, actually, I took it from what I have behind me, this backdrop. And so everything I have behind me is on one vinyl print. And my thinking was, well, there'll be people that could maybe assign or offer to give me commission work. So I want to put tons of different artwork out there so they can see what I do, so that I don't leave any stone unturned, basically trying to be everything to everyone at every time, which is the biggest way to fail in business. In business, you need to identify your market, and you need to market your stuff and target your product and your marketing towards trying to attract that certain demographic, that certain person. And I was doing the classic blunder. I was shotgunning out there to everybody. And so my sign looked like nothing. From a distance, it just looked like a pattern. It looked like wallpaper. Worst thing I could have ever done. And if I could say to the guys on the right and the left, if I look at your signage and if I look at your setup, that'd probably be the number one critique I have is, just imagine as you're walking down the rows, there's stuff on your right, there's stuff on your left, there's loud noises, people are yelling and screaming and talking, there's music, there's food, there's everything, there's costumes, there's everything going on all at the same time. And it's funny because in the morning I could tell that when the people first come in, they're bright-eyed, they can see what they want. And it's interesting that it seems like in every con experience I've had so far, there's a rush of people that will buy stuff like in the first 10 minutes when they open the floodgates, and you can hear them out there hyping up the crowd, and they're yelling and screaming. Then they let them in, and you can see people almost running in, and the first thing they see that they like, they'll buy. And so we'll get like busy and get a bunch of sales, and then people realize, oh, and this is what I'm imagining, I have to carry this with me, or I don't want to run out of money too soon. So then they back off, and then you see a lot of people just really looking. They're getting smarter about shopping. They're looking around. I'd love to know in the comments, by the way, if anyone else has experienced that. But that's just something that I've noticed. And so anyway, they're bombarded with tons of sights and sounds and everything. The thing that I think you need to do as a tabler, as a presenter, is to organize your space so that at a glance, because that's all you get sometimes, is boom, and then they're done. At a glance, they need to be able to comprehend, and this is a hard task, comprehend everything that you're about, everything that they're going to get at your booth in a glance. They need to be able to see that. They're not going to get that from all of your images. They need to get that from one image. Now, this is because I went from that horrible sign to the baby Darth Maul sign, which I think you've already seen. I'm doing the video first, and then I'm laying these videos over top. So, but if not, you will see it in there. That sign alone, that's probably half of the business that I got, because I would watch people walking along. They'd give me the glance. They would look over my head. They'd see, because it's red. Remember, red is the color that you see more than anything else. It's an accent color. It grabs your attention way more than cool colors. Bam, that spot of red on the little baby Darth Maul with the double nipple. They get the concept right away. I'll hear them. I'll see them out there going, oh my gosh, look at that. Darth Maul's got a double nipple. And they'll grab their friend, like, look at that. And they're pointing to the sign. And so that alone I never got that in September, ever. I never got people going and just getting it right away. Sometimes it seemed like in September, the sales I would get was when the aisle got so congested that people couldn't move anymore. And then they were forced to deal with, well, I guess your booth is right here. These are kind of neat, but I never got the distant, the seeing something from a distance. So, I would say that's probably the number one thing, is to get your signage up high, make it clear and concise, so that there's and it has to. This is where I go back to the concept. So, and I know I've talked about this before, but if you go to a movie and it's supposed to be a sad movie and you don't cry, or it's not touching, or you didn't feel anything, then you're gonna say you're gonna forget the movie, but you're gonna also think that it was a bad movie. If you go to a movie that's supposed to be a comedy and make you laugh and you don't laugh, it's a bad movie, right? If you go to a movie that's supposed to scare you and you don't get scared, it's a bad movie. If you were artists, right? So what our job really is to do, and my definition of art, the one that I've adopted, really is you have to change someone emotionally. So to me, if you're not changing someone emotionally with your art, you're not really making art. That's just how I see it. Now, that's my definition of art. It doesn't have to be your definition. So if you're making artwork and here's the problem. We as illustrators, we're taught to beautify. We're taught to draw really well, and we like to render, and we like to polish and put nice colors, and aren't those pretty colors? And I'm number one guilty guy on doing that. If you're not telling a story, if you're not, again, and not coming up with a concept that moves someone in some way, you're just going to fail. And so there's a combination between, I would say, signage and concept. And I think your job really is to make a clear, concise statement and concept that makes someone have a fill-in-the-blank emotion, right? So whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to horrify someone with a head that's been lopped off and is flying through the air with blood coming out, that's cool. If that's your demographic, if that's your audience, then you need to really push that and make, and then you're going to get the guys with the, that love that kind of stuff, and some of the gals too, and they're going to come over there and go, ooh, that's so cool, I love that, and they're going to want to see more of that. If they can't tell what's going on, you're just going to be another booth. And especially towards the middle of the end of the day, people just start walking along like a zombie, like they're impervious to color, sight, sounds, like their senses have been so overloaded that when they're in that mode, that's even more reason to give them relief, and that's why I chose to use tons of white space with one character that says it all. And it totally worked. And I think that's why I did so much better than any of the events that I've been at thus far. Okay, so next, let's talk about not that. Oh, okay. Let me talk about another thing that I've learned from the first one. Okay, so if you're going to do your first event, right, or if you've done them before, maybe you've done a few, and they just haven't gone well, right? So there's a lot of reasons why they're not going well. But here's a way to make it go even worse, and that's to sit there, right? I'm gonna move this mic a little bit. It's to sit there, like with your hands like this on your table, and go, hi. Oh, hey, how you doing? Hi. Please come over here and look what I have to offer. I feel really bad. This is my lemonade stand. Please. Okay, so there were two people that I knew that were doing that, right? And they happened to be sitting next to each other. And these are they're good artists. They're really good. And but here's the thing. Like when I did my first one, the problem that you're in is you have put your heart and soul into the artwork that you've brought, right? And there's no way you can feel this until you do it. Because the first time I went to the Comic-Con, I was like, well, I should be in here. I should be selling. I could be selling my stuff, And then I didn't do it because I didn't have anything to sell that I thought people would want. So that, and I've talked about that before. But then I went to the second one and I walked around again and it was really cool. And that's the one where I thought, I should be in here, doing this. And I saw all my friends, and they're selling, and, there's this, it just seemed like a happy place. Then when I went in September, I put all this work into it. spent all this money, did everything, and then started thinking, then the thoughts hit you, well, what if nobody buys my stuff? And you start to get really scared, and you start to get really petrified, and then you think, well, I people need to buy my stuff. They have to. I need to get my money back. And then you start to panic a little bit, right? And then as people start walking by, every person that looks at your setup and then walks on, you take it as that person hates me. That person doesn't like what I do. That's a rejection. It's like, it's really weird, but until you do it, I just don't think that most artists are set up for the kind of emotions that hit you. And I've talked about this with some other artists, and it's brutal. In fact, at some points, and some artists never come back. They'll do it, and then they'll just go, I'm never going to do this again. And it's unfortunate, because I think that with a little coaching, you could overcome. So here's what I realized, and here's what I said to these two guys. They didn't know each other, but I knew both of them from different places. And so they're sitting there saying hi to the people walking by, and they have this sad look, like, and they're facing forward, right? They're just like, pretend that you're out there walking by my table, and I'm just kind of sitting here facing forward. Okay, so here's a tip that I learned. And this is what I told them: is first off, when you are facing someone, right? When someone's just sitting there and looking out, it's like we go way back into our DNA, back into the jungle, and it's like one animal confronting another. It's really hard to walk directly up to someone. Like I mean, like, even if you're going to rent a car and there's someone at the Hertz counter, you want them to be busy on the computer, you want them to be reading a book, you want them to be looking for something busy. The last thing you want them to do is just to be sitting there like, okay, so this person's might be coming up to me, and you're going, do I have to go up to that person? Maybe I'll go to Avis instead. Hertz looks a little creepy. They're just waiting for me. And that's what these guys were doing. So I'm telling them, like, you're sitting facing out like that is the worst thing you could do, because it just puts people off. It makes people uncomfortable. And where I actually learned this, because I never thought of that before. Where I learned it was from that show, The Pickup Artist. It was like a decade ago, and the guy's saying, yeah, when you wanna pick up a girl, talk to the girl over your shoulder, right? Because then it's non-confrontational. It's really weird. It's an unspoken language, but we don't like to talk and face. Have you ever talked to a close talker and they're right in your face, and all you're trying to do is get away from them the whole time? And they usually have bad breath too. And so what I said was, turn sideways, like this. And in fact, I actually learned this from September, when the guy across from me was sitting sideways. And he would sit completely perpendicular to his parallel with his table. And he would just sit there, and he'd look at his phone, and he'd do a bunch of other things. And I finally went over and talked to him, and he and his brother actually run the booth. He did the artwork, and he would trade off, and they would go to different events and take all their stuff. And they've made a lot of money doing it on weekends. They had good jobs, but they would make, what he was saying, $10,000 to $15,000 at a lot of events. And they had really kind of predictable stuff, but they had the stuff that everybody wanted, and they had a lot of it. And they had a big setup and 2 tables and really nice professional setup. And he said, yeah, we learned, because we were sitting facing forward, and then I can't remember if it was him or his brother one day said, I think that it would be better to sit sideways, and they had a bet. And then one of them started sitting sideways and was bringing in, I don't know, 2 or 3 times as much as the other guy. Simply because people felt like they could just walk up and look at the stuff they had, and this was just a person that was just kind of manning the booth that didn't really care. And so you're thinking, well, I'm the artist. They want to meet me, and they're like thinking, who's that creepy person that's looking at me right now? They don't know you. They don't care about you being the artist. They're there to find cool things and to get toys and to get autographs and to get figurines and prints. But they don't want to get it from the creeper that's just kind of just staring straight ahead at them. So that's one of the main things. I take it a little step further, and I did it at this last con where I would just look busy. Like I'm always trying to stuff a new piece of art into a sleeve or something. Think about it when you're in a retail store and you're that creepy salesperson comes up and is like hovering, like, well, what can I do? Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? And you're like, you want them to just go away and let me browse. And so people that are at Comic-Con are in browsing mode. They just want to look at stuff. And I went through, it was funny because I walked around and I went through the crafters tables, and talk about a sad bunch there. There was a bunch of people in there that had, they'd whittled and made a bunch of cool necklaces and beads. And there was a lot of cool stuff in there, but they were just sitting there like, will you please buy something from me? And you're just like, it's weird. You just want to get out of there. So don't do that. Okay. And I told these guys not to do that. Okay. So let's finish up with, oh yeah, my friend, my friends, Mel Milton and Adam and Noah and Wayne and Drayson were there helping me for part of the day. And so here's some video from them, and also this is the TV setup that I was talking about before. So we got that going on, and we were drawing on the iPad. And I should talk about that a little bit too. That ended up being a great thing. The TV wasn't that expensive. I added it to my expense list. $250 at Costco for the TV, 40-inch TV, and then put it up on a little cheap stand, and that gave me some room to hang some more artwork from. And just having that running where we were either drawing on it or I had a video running, really attracted people and would stop people, and people would start to watch. And I would put, and I had a little line underneath the TV that said, ask us about our online art classes at svslearn.com. And so that's another reason why I'm really excited about doing these events. Is I meet a lot of people that are subscribed to us. I meet a lot of people that are looking to learn about how to do comics and children's books and things like that, and they want to. When they find out how cheap it is, they really get excited about it, and so we pass out a lot of cards. Okay, so let's look at the expenses. So I'm not going to write these out, but where I was after CTN was I was still $1,700 or $2,700 in the red, which means I had spent that much more than I had brought in after the Salt Lake Comic-Con and CTN. After CTN, I did LTUE, and I did that one. That's a local show. It's a small show. It's a fantasy writers show. LTUE, Life, the Universe, and Everything. And you can go to their website. But I made a little over $600 at that show. But I really wanted to test out the TV, and I didn't want to leave it to chance, and I didn't want to go to FANX without and run a TV for the first time and mess things up. So I worked out a lot of bugs, and some of those were I had used a smaller TV that we already had here, and it just wasn't big enough, and I needed to see that and live to see how big it was. It also wasn't high enough up in the air. So when the con gets really busy, you need that TV actually to be up, the bottom of it to be about the 6-foot level, so that people can see over people's heads and still see the TV up there. And we had to get that height right. Also working out the video that I put on there, running off my iPad, just little things like that, testing the iPad, seeing what works, working on a fan art character, attract people more than a video that's sped up. And that is kind of still up in the air. The problem is when we would draw on that iPad Pro hooked up to the TV, a lot of people would see us drawing, then come over and look at us drawing upside down, and they wouldn't realize that it was on the TV. That's the problem, and I got to figure out how to figure that one out still. Or they would go to see the TV, they'd see some movement, and then they would start watching the TV, but they wouldn't know that I was drawing on it or that somebody else was drawing on it. So it seemed like a video was just as good in many respects because we could speed it up. People could watch it from start to finish. Okay, so with the $600 that I made there, and I made about another $100 on Etsy, and that's $100 profit after expenses and everything. So that's another $700 positive. So now I'm about down $2,000. And then I spent total an extra $1,263, which really puts me in the hole about $4,000, $3,963. It's good to know this stuff because you have to know where you are and you have to keep track of your expenses. You have to keep track of your expenses to deduct for taxes anyway, so you might as well keep a separate tally for an event like this so you know what you're spending. So I had spent with prints, table costs, electricity, because I had 2 tables at FANX, the TV, the stand. That all came out to be about $1,263, which made me go into the whole, like I said, closer to $4,000. And so then with the extra money that I made from LTUE and Etsy, so I guess okay, so the reveal is I made the $3,165 at FANX. So woohoo, $3,165 against the $4,000. So I'm down about $800 still in the hole, but then I made $700. So actually right now I am about $100 in the red. So after 3.5, LTUE really doesn't count as an experience, or as a convention, but because of how small it is, it's a great convention. I shouldn't say that. It's taken me this long, but what I have now, again, you have to keep in mind, is I have thousands and thousands and thousands of prints, and I'm scheduled to go to Phoenix Comic Con and Denver in June. So and my tables are all paid for there. So all of my from now on, I should really be in the black every time now, because I decided to. And if you go back in the playlist and watch the first videos, you'll remember that I offset printed most of my prints. So I got 1,000 of each one so that I wouldn't run out, so that when I go to events, I don't have to run to the printer again and pay more money and get a lot of prints. And each of my little 8x10s and my posters cost 10 cents each. So my cost when I put them in a 5-cent sleeve is like 15 cents. So there's really a lot of room for profit as I go forward, because I was planning to do this for at least a couple years to see if I liked it, and really kind of committed for that. So it was really fun making that money. I also wanted to, before I finish, I wanted to say that one of my friends was there, Holly Hibbert, and okay, look up from your drawing again, because here she is right here, and this is her setup, and she was at FANX, and she said it was really cute, because on her email, let's see, where's her email? Oh shoot, I thought I had it up. Well, on her email, she said, you can tell them. She did. She says you can tell them I did a little bit better than you. She did way better than me. She did so much better. Like, I thought I did really well, and I did, I think, but she did amazingly well, money wise. And when you look at her stuff, one of the things that I think, one of the reasons why I think she did so well is, in a sea of heroes and swords and magic and muscles and sweat and even boobs and all that stuff, here she has this really innocent looking feminine artwork of a lot of feminine characters, and they just stood out, on real, just super designed well. The other thing is Holly works at Imagine Learning. She has a really good job there. She also does freelance work. She's an amazing artist, and it shows in her work. So, but she sold out of she's sold out of Ray, and I think Ariel, and I was selling out of Alien, my little Alien print, and so I called the printer, and she called the printer because we use the same press at Press Media. I'll link them below. I'll link Holly below as well in the description. And so we called up on Thursday night and begged them to print more on Friday so we could have them for Saturday, because I was pretty sure I was going to run out of Alien. I brought 30 of them, and I ended up selling 28. So I thought I was going to sell out, but I didn't. But I got a bunch more printed up for Phoenix and Denver. So anyway, that's kind of how it went. But her stuff sold so well, I think, because it's just unique and different. And that's the thing. If you're going to do it, it's amazing to me how many people will go there. They'll spend all their time and money and effort getting ready for Comic-Con, and then their stuff just blends right into what everyone else is doing. I mean, we're artists, for crying out loud. We're creatives. To spend the time, go, don't make the first Comic-Con that you go to the one you're selling at. Go around with a notepad, look around, see whose tables are busy. Then ask yourself why. Why are people buying and spending time checking out this table? Why aren't they checking out that one? What does this person have? And try to be really objective. Don't always say, well, this artist is better. Maybe they've got better concepts, like I already talked about, right? So anyway, a closing note, I would say everyone said how horrible FANX was going to be simply because it was, we just had Comic-Con out here. It's a smaller event. And yet I still more than doubled what I made it at Comic-Con here at FANX. And so a couple people told me, well, if you did that well here, because they didn't do well, but they go to Phoenix and they go to Denver, and they said you'll double or triple what you did here in Phoenix and Denver. So we'll see, and I will report on that after June, because those events happen in June. And again, don't subscribe unless you want to see more stuff like this, because this is what I'm going to give you. And thanks for watching. And I guess you'll see me on my next video. I always say I'll see you on my next video. I was driving home today and I was thinking, I don't see you. I see this camera. I love the comments and I love the engagement that I get. But I guess you'll see me on my next video. Drawing first.
What are we talking about? Hi. What you got going on over here? Well, what's this?
This is
my favorite part of Comic-Con.
Camera. Yeah, what's your favorite?
I'm not doing it.